Strong earthquake rocks the North Bay.
Napa did declare a local emergency.
KTVU Channel 2 News brought you dependable breaking news coverage on air and on social media.
Urban search and rescue teams headed to that area,
Keeping you informed with late-breaking information.
Caltrain and VTA are operating as scheduled.
You see the damage behind me?
We are getting an up-close look here at incredible damage.
I'm going to put my hand down this crack. I'm not even close to the bottom.
For dependable breaking news coverage, stay with KTVU Channel 2 News. Complete Bay Area news coverage.
70 or so patients, cuts and lacerations, as John mentioned. So things looking smooth there outside the hospital in Napa.
Now, we've been talking about that mobile home fire this morning that destroyed 4 mobile homes. We saw pictures from News Chopper 2. We now have Alex Savage, who is on the ground for us with the very latest. Alex?
Yeah, good morning to you. We are getting an up-close look here at incredible damage at this mobile home park in the northwest part of Napa. Let me get you a look. This is the scene behind us here. As many as a dozen mobile homes have burned this morning because of a very large fire. Actually, what I was told were actually 2 separate fires that broke out immediately after this earthquake hit at 3:20 this morning. The cause unclear, but in all likelihood, the assumption is that these were broken gas lines. Those gas lines ruptured and triggered these incredible fires, massive fires. People ran from their homes this morning. The good news in all of this is that we have just heard from the fire captain that I spoke with. Nobody was hurt here. It appears as though everybody made it out alive this morning. Really incredible. And obviously the fact that you have an earthquake preceding this large fire is really a blessing in disguise, because people would wake up and be able to get out of their homes. I'm joined now by Captain Steve Becker with the Napa Fire Department. Tell me, give me a sense of what you guys found when you first got here.
Initially, we were not even dispatched to these addresses. We saw the fires in the loom up in the column of smoke in 2 separate locations from the park as we were responding to a different call. This became our priority rapidly. Upon arrival, we noticed that the water main was ruptured out front. We would have no water for fire suppression. So our initial actions were limited to evacuating the closest structures and accounting for the lives that were present, removing them from harm's way, and then awaiting for fire suppression water to get here in the mode of mutual aid tenders from the county. Once they got here, we were able to sort of draw a line in the sand, if you will, and contain the fires to the involved units, and they did not extend beyond those units.
Okay, we have, you were just giving me the rundown. A total of 4 mobile homes that have been completely destroyed this morning, entirely destroyed. And you also have as many as 6 to 8
damaged in varying degrees.
In varying degrees, okay.
That's just from fire damage. Structural damage, we have damage throughout the park.
Okay. The challenge was, of course, the fact that you show up here and you have a ruptured water line. Therefore, no water to put on the fire. But you had trucks come in, you had tankers come in, and that supplied enough water for you guys to get these fires under control?
We had additional units from the city of Napa and then mutual aid from the county of Napa with water tenders. With the combination of those 5 or 6 resources, we were able to save a large number of units that, without those resources, would still be burning.
This fire here is at a mobile home park. It's Napa Valley Manor here. This is near the intersection of Orchard Avenue and Solano Avenue, just for some reference for folks watching at home, if you want to know where this is exactly. But you were also telling me, Captain, that you had a separate mobile home fire that is close by, just south of here. What kind of damage was done there?
We had 1 unit fully involved, separate from this group of 3 in the same park. Several parks south of here, we had another mobile home involved. And we've had several other working structure fires through the city up to this point.
This morning's been nonstop for you guys?
It's been nonstop with a lot of help from our mutual aid and allied agencies.
Do you have a sense of how many people throughout the area that you work have been hurt in this earthquake?
We've had a large number of medical calls this morning. We've been nonstop since about 5 minutes after the earthquake. I cannot give an actual number or to the degree of injuries, but I can tell you our dispatch center and incident command staff have been nonstop since the incident dispatching calls, which is the radio background you hear right now.
Okay. Captain, thank you very much for taking the time this morning. Again, we are at a mobile home park here this morning that's near the intersection of Solano and Orchard Avenues. And again, you can see the scene here. They do have these fires under control, but as many as a dozen mobile homes have burned this morning. 4 of them were destroyed. destroyed in this fire. Again, the assumption is that you had a ruptured gas line because of the early morning quake, and that's what triggered this large fire that firefighters worked hard for the last couple of hours to get under control. They have the situation in hand right now. We'll, of course, keep checking in with the fire officials. We'll have further updates here, of course, on Mornings on 2. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio for now.
Thanks, Alex, for that update. Certainly this morning at 7:33, you woke up this morning, felt it. Maybe you were able to go back to sleep. You might be one of the few people that were in and wanted to get an assessment of kind of what the situation is right now. Certainly the most we're seeing is Napa, American Canyon, Vallejo. Those areas are seeing the damage. Everyone else seems to be doing okay.
Yeah, we got to tell that story at the intersection of Solano and Orchard. I mean, that's where we had the fire this morning at the mobile home park. Firefighters pulling up, and the water main burst. They couldn't get water onto it, so what they did is they started evacuating folks out. KTVU's Alex Savage there now on the scene as we can see the smoke behind you. Alex, good morning. What's the latest?
I'm very grateful. This is my second earthquake, and that's plenty. I don't want another one.
Mike, good morning to you. They do have this fire under control. Again, as many as a dozen mobile homes potentially burned this morning. 4 of them destroyed is what we're told. And now we're hearing some of the stories from folks who were on the ground here when this quake hit and this massive fire erupted. We want to speak here. This is Bill here. He's a neighbor who lives just across the street, describing what was going on this morning.
And he took off. But everyone got out okay.
So, are we assuming maybe it was gas lines that started the fires?
I would only guess. I can only guess.
Bill, can you describe again what this looked like when you looked across the street?
Well, when I looked across the street, I noticed flames that were in the back of this house. And I thought, well, this must be a gas leak or something like that. And then it just took off. Just took off immediately. I mean, it was just a matter of 2 minutes before this place was totally engulfed.
Add to that the water situation.
Yeah, that didn't help. That did not help at all. There's no water pressure. The water main broke, as near as I can tell.
Were the fire crews frantic, moving quickly? How'd that go?
I wouldn't say they were frantic. I mean, these guys are really professional. They were Johnny on the spot, you know. And this handsome gentleman over here asked me to walk around and bang on people's doors and get everyone out of the house, out of their houses. And
initially, how much concern did you have for your neighbors and their well-being?
Well, I mean, they're homeless. And I'm very concerned about them. And but I've seen the Red Cross here. They're always Johnny on the spot. So I'm, you know, keeping my fingers crossed for them. But I am worried. I mean, I can't think of anything worse than losing your house. So
were the people running out of their homes, or were people?
I heard. That's the story from one neighbor again this morning. We are in this mobile home community. I was just told here by this neighbor this is a retirement community for those who are 55 and older. This is at the intersection of Orchard Avenue and Solano Avenue in the northwest part of Napa. You can see devastation here this morning. 4 mobile homes, prefabricated homes here in this community wiped out by this fire. Firefighters do suspect that it was in fact started by ruptured gas lines. That is the assumption this morning. 4 of these homes wiped out by fire. Another 6 to 8 homes have pretty heavy damage because of the fire. But again, the situation is under control. The fire captain also did tell us once again that they do believe that everyone is okay here. Everyone made it out. No injuries to report here. We're going to keep speaking with neighbors, get some more of the stories from here on the ground in Napa. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio for now.
Hey, Alex, I want to ask you, and I got to warn the viewers, there is a delay on this, about 4 or 5 seconds. It's just the way it's going to be. But the firefighter you interviewed earlier talked about the homes that were destroyed or damaged because of that fire. When you drove in, did you see other mobile homes, not necessarily damaged by the fire, but structurally damaged because of the earthquake?
No, I don't. Besides, you don't want to hug me.
Yeah, there are reports of some of these homes in this particular community that were knocked off their foundation by the force of this quake. I'm not sure, Captain. I'm looking over here at the captain we spoke with. Do you have an exact figure? So, anecdotally, you know, people are saying dozens of homes. Do you have an exact figure how many homes have the structural damage?
In this complex, I can tell you just from walking around the immediate scene, we have a large number as far as percentage-wise in this complex. Citywide, I've been given an update by our PIO from the city downtown that we do have a large degree of damage in the downtown core and throughout the city. To the degree and the numbers, I do not have that information. It'll probably be several days before it's developed.
Okay. Fair to say we're talking about dozens? Are we talking
I would
about
say
hundreds?
beyond dozens into the hundreds. To be just a personal estimate, listening to our radio traffic, and from what I've been told.
What's the best advice if I find that my home has structural damage, even if it maybe appears minor? What do you say to these people?
The best thing to do right now, being we're still in emergency response, is to look at the website for the City of Napa. It's www.cityofnapa.org. That will provide you direction and an update on what's taking place and what the resources are for that. The key is, if you do smell gas, to shut down the gas at your meter, only if you smell it. Okay? If beyond that, if something does not appear safe structurally, stay out of it until they can analyze it. Go to friends or family's houses, find a different place to stay. This community, with our floods and past fires and earthquakes, we're really good at taking care of each other. So talk to your neighbors, get in touch with them, interact with them, find shelter for those that need it. And you can also, when you have web access, look up all your disaster organizations that can provide you information on resources.
Good. Certainly good advice. Thank you very much, Captain, for your time. Again, the advice here from this, the captain here, with the Napa Fire Department, is be cautious this morning. If you do notice any sort of damage that was structural damage to your home, even if it may appear minor, probably a good idea. Just stay out of that place. Find a safe place to stay for the time being, because as we have heard, obviously there are aftershocks. Likely more to come, so not a good idea to be inside any home that has any sort of structural damage. But again, the situation here in this mobile home community, a retirement community for those 55 and up, is what we've been told here is that these fires are now under control. That's the good news. No one hurt out here. That is also the good news, but obviously quite a bit of damage done to a number of homes here. We'll stay on top of this scene. We'll have further updates later on here on Morning Sun 2. Back to you guys.
All right, Alex, thanks for that update. And again, great advice by the captain there. And also to note, the neighbor he interviewed, Bill, how he described the firefighters as very professional. I mean, imagine pulling up to a scene, you got a home, you can't get water, and what did they do? Those firefighters started evacuating all the residents. They waited for those county tender trucks to come in. So hats off to the Napa County firefighters and Napa City firefighters there.
Absolutely. They said they were actually on their way to another call when they saw 2 columns of smoke coming up from different parts of that mobile home park, and quickly rerouted and said, we've got a bigger emergency to deal with right now, and that's what they're dealing with. We do have crews. You saw Alex Savage. We have Eric Rasmussen out there. We have News Chopper 2 above. We have folks all over the Bay Area keeping an eye on things. So we've talked about these roadways, because the CHP warning people to stay off their roadways, and Tom Becker joining us now to talk about what he's seen in terms of damage. And Tom, how significant is the damage you're seeing? The pictures that we're seeing, that's a pretty decent sized crack I'm looking at.
Facebook and Twitter. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Rosemary. You talk about folks being injured. Let's give a quick update. Queen of the Valley Medical Center in Napa reporting 87 patients have gone through there. They have a triage tent set up outside. We know 2 of those patients are critical. One is pediatric, and the reason given by one of the firefighters out there was because of a possible fireplace or chimney collapse onto that pediatric patient. So we're hoping for the best there. Also, an evacuation center has been set up at Napa Valley High School. May be empty now, but as we move on throughout this breaking news story, people may realize that their home's just not stable, or they find a crack here, and they may have to move out of that house. So they're going to need those evac centers. We
are hearing that there are at least 50 gas main leaks throughout the city and area of Napa. Those are obviously a big concern. We had the mobile home fires in Napa, 4 destroyed, several others damaged. And in those situations, that is a very big concern. They think the fire started because of those gas main leaks. So that's something to be aware of. That's why they have these evacuation centers set up, Napa High School, and also well as Grace Church on Solano. So if you feel like you're in a situation that is not safe, you do need to make sure you clear out of that area.
And if you smell gas, call immediately.
And report those. Those are the 911 emergencies that they want you to call for. Otherwise, they say don't call if you do not have a life-threatening emergency. Now, Alex Savage has been monitoring the situation at that mobile home park that we've been talking about. He is standing in front of some of the damage and joins us live with the very latest. Alex?
Claudine, good morning to you. A frightening morning for the people who live here in this mobile home community that's right off of Highway 29 and Orchard Avenue, where we are this morning. And you can see devastation behind us. As many as a dozen homes in this community were just wiped out by a massive fire this morning. 4 of them destroyed, and about 6 to 8 others is what we're told that had pretty heavy fire damage. You can see these units here are just smoldering still at this point. Firefighters have this situation, though, under control, they say, and we want to point out the good news in all of this. These were gas-fed fires, ruptured gas lines. That is what is suspected here to be the cause, and the fires took off very quickly. But the good news is that we do understand, and firefighters believe that everybody made it out of these homes. They have no reports of anyone being hurt this morning. Of course, they are still checking to make sure that's the case here. And you can see they still have a lot of hot spots with these fires and a lot more work that has yet to be done. Let me let you listen in here to a neighbor, a man who lives right across the street from one of these homes that burned this morning. He woke up when the earthquake struck, obviously at 3:20 this morning, and at that point he looked across and he saw this fire taking off. Listen to what he had to say.
And man, I'm telling you, it was a shaking and a baking, and I've been here 28 and a half years, never had this. I've never felt this. All the years, I've lived in Napa most of my life, and I've never felt this bad, you know, but it's one of those things that happen, and just, you go with the flow. Once, you know, and we just wanted to make sure everybody was safe.
Sorry.
Now, along with the fire here at this mobile home park, the other big issue here is there are quite a few homes as you walk down some of the streets that have structural damage. Some of the homes were knocked right off of their foundations. We've seen some of them, and according to the manager, he believes that as many as 50 homes in this community maybe have some sort of structural damage, and in all likelihood, the people who live in those places are not going to want to stay there as we move forward from here, and they're going to have to find another place to stay. We understand the Red Cross is involved up here to help the victims of this fire and also to help some of the people who have so much structural damage to their homes that they really are going to have to find another place to live. But the good news, though, is we bring you back out here to this live picture. You can see this home right here in front of us and many others still smoldering this morning after Napa firefighters tried to control a huge gas-fed fire. Ruptured gas lines triggered this massive fire. As many as a dozen homes were damaged by this fire as a result of the earthquake. But the good news, no one hurt out here. We're still talking with neighbors, many of them obviously quite rattled at what happened this morning, but very thankful that all of their neighbors are safe, at least as far as we know. We'll, of course, stay on top of the situation, keep checking in with firefighters here, and have an update for you later on. We'll send it back to you.
All right, Alex, thank you very much for that live report there at the mobile home park, Solano and Orchard. Just getting word also that the Napa airport right now is closed because of...
All right, 10:43. Those are some pretty dramatic pictures, Rosemary. And also a reporter who is at a pretty dramatic scene is our own Alex Savage, because he's been showing us these pictures of this carport, and pretty dramatic out there, Alex.
Claudine, it is, yeah, an incredible sight for people in this apartment complex, and an amazing scene. Quite a bit of damage out here. We now understand 4 carports had some sort of damage. You can see the ones behind us here. They collapsed entirely on top of more than a dozen cars by my count, but of course we don't have an exact count yet on exactly how many cars are underneath here. It's sort of hard to tell, but you can imagine the cars that are underneath these carports are badly damaged. Some of them, I should say, sort of escaped any damage. But a scary morning for the people who live here in this apartment complex. But the good news is that no one was in any of these cars, because it was 3:20 in the morning when the quake struck. But so no one was hurt. Let me give you a look here at the scene nearby in this neighborhood. We talked just a short time ago with a husband and a wife who had a very close call at their house when this quake struck. They were jolted awake and quickly realized that both a mirror and a headboard had fallen on top of them, and both of them were trapped. Neither of them could move, they say. They screamed out for help, hoping someone would hear them, and they say eventually some neighbors came to pull those items off of them. And listen to what the wife had to say.
Woke up with our headboard, 2 mirrors on top of us. He couldn't move at all, or his leg was pinned. I could move, but I couldn't move the heavy headboard. So called for help, and our neighbors eventually heard us.
And this is the scene from another home in this neighborhood. Incredible damage inside pretty much every home you see. And you can see here that doors flew open, drawers were dislodged, dishes flew onto the floor and were smashed. So quite a bit of cleanup for people to do here. Quite a bit of structural damage to a lot of homes. And then, of course, there are scenes like this one here as we bring you back out to a live picture. This is the Charter Oaks apartment complex. This is on Browns Valley Road, and an unbelievable sight. Several carports, 4 of them by our count, have collapsed, crushing more than a dozen cars underneath them. The people who own these cars, they aren't going anywhere for the time being. And I should also point out that
all right, looks like we lost Alex Savage right there. He was reporting on those carports that went down on Browns Valley Road. If you're not familiar with the area, Browns Valley Road is just west of downtown Napa. So if you're heading up 29, you've got downtown right there on the right side. On the left side, which is the west side, you take Browns Valley Road out, and there you are in that area. And that's where a lot of the damage we are seeing and reporting to you.